We're very pleased to have Ken Howe here to speak. He's a Democratic candidate for the Portage County Sheriff, and we're very happy he's here to talk about his campaign and why we should vote for him. Round of applause for Ken Howe.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ken Howe. Actually, I go by P. Ken Howe, and a lot of people, they jokingly, P is for paranoid, and I tell them that's not true, it's for Priscilla. But my name is Paul, actually, but nobody would ever know me by Paul. First, I would like to thank Tom and the Portage County group for graciously allowing me to speak this evening. I was supposed to be here January 10th in Maplewood, but I was in New Jersey doing an extradition, unable to make it, so Tom graciously allowed me to come here this evening. My law enforcement career started back in 1976 in Portage County as a deputy. I went over to Summit County, and I was part of an organized crime and drug task force. And I got into law enforcement in Portage County, Ravenna Police Department. In 1988, I decided I wanted to run for sheriff. Well, just to give you a little bit of history of what has happened over the years, I won the primary election by a large margin against an incumbent who was in there for 10 years, I believe. And the day after the election, Dwayne Cayley, who used to be the sheriff, worked at the sheriff's office as the chief of detectives. And the morning after the primary, he came over to me. I was outside the Ravenna Police Department, and he asked if he could talk to me for a minute, and I said, sure. He said, Ken, I hear you're going to fire me. Well, if any of you knew Dwayne or know Dwayne, Dwayne's a Republican. And I said, Dwayne, I said, nobody thought I was going to win this primary election, but I can guarantee you I am going to win the general election. I said, as far as firing you, I have no intentions of firing you. I said, somebody's trying to start some problems, and this is their way of doing it. He says, well, you know, I keep hearing this. And I said, Dwayne, let me make you a promise, okay? I am not going to fire you unless you don't do your job. If you don't do your job, I will fire you. And he says, well, but I'm Republican. I said, I don't care. I said, the number one reason I am not going to fire you, you have 2 children and a wife. That's the number one reason I am not going to fire you. This is not about politics. This is about, we have a sheriff's office that is being sued because of jail conditions. We have to design a new jail. All the deputies were not trained. I had to pull deputies off of the road to get them certified before I could even allow them to go back out on the road. So we had a lot of things to do. Well, the Democrats, after I took office, for 8 months wanted me to put a Democrat in there. And I said, no. I said, we have too much to do here. We're under a federal lawsuit. We have crimes. We have things that we have to do. So I kept Dwayne. And we went on, and when I first got in the sheriff's office, we had no cruisers. The cruisers were those old 1986 Dodges, I believe they were. I started a program for used state patrol cars out of North Carolina, and that took care of our car problem. I took everybody who had updated training, required updated training, took them off the road. We got through that. So the current Justice Center was one of the biggest things that we had to design. And I didn't do that by myself. I did that with Commissioner Chris Smiles, Nancy Hansford, and Janet Esposito. And that facility out there is state of the art. We put technology in there with swipe cards that you could only get into certain places. The sight lines for the safety of prisoners and the public is out there. It has an EMA office attached to it. I can't honestly tell you I'm excited about that, because anytime you have somebody come in a facility, a jail facility, you always have that chance of drugs coming in, whatever the case is. So anyways, that is state of the art. In 1992, there was some drug problems in the city of, well, Portage County, let's say. And I had to make a decision, and I ended up indicting a prosecutor. Well, Miss Mary, she's gone, but she was talking about integrity and character and honesty. Well, because he was the prosecutor, didn't mean anything. Did I know that that was political suicide? Pretty much so. But I did what I had to do, and I did it for the taxpayers of Portage County. And I used to tell our deputies and our detectives, I said, you know, people work hard every day to give us what we have here at this sheriff's office. Well, all of a sudden, I became ineligible to run. So I guess the politics kicked in, and they had me ruled off the ballot. I told the Democrats, I said, I will get Dwayne Cayley elected, all right? No, you can't do it. Well, I did it. Got Dwayne elected by a large margin. And Dwayne can tell you what he wants, if any of you know him. He and I had a gentleman's agreement that I was supposed to stay and work with him. Well, that didn't work out very well, okay? Dwayne and I haven't talked, I don't know, maybe in passing a couple words. But I guess I question his integrity, all right? My integrity, I kept him. Didn't make any difference about politics. Well, Dwayne got elected, and his chief deputy was current sheriff, Dave Doak, and I'm not sure what influenced Dave to run, but he pulled a mutiny on Dwayne and decided that he was going to run against his boss. Well, there was a falling out. So that's a little bit of history, and I wanted to make sure that you knew that, because we're talking, the other candidates who I deeply respect, we're talking about integrity and doing for you, the public, of what has to be done. And I was the one who put the politics aside. And I told you, Dwayne had a family, but I owed that to him, all right? Well, the 10 years, the 13 years that current Sheriff Doak worked for Dwayne Cayley, they had 10 murders and homicides. Any of you question that, I have the list here, that I got this list from the coroner's office, the Portage County coroner's office. The second name on this list was Andy Hussey. Andy Hussey's dad was a deputy for 33 years with the Portage County Sheriff's Office, and his son was shot by a sniper down at Berlin Lake. And you know what? Gordon Hussey died, and nobody worked on that, and nobody solved that case. So let's look at integrity and character again, okay? Now, Dave Doak, I know at your meeting January 10th, no unsolved homicides, murders. Well, you're right. Under his administration, no. Under him being the chief deputy, yes. 13 years he worked for Dwayne Cayley, and neither one of them solved that case. Now, do I appear angry? Yes, I am, okay? And now we have 5 suicides in 3 years at the Portage County Jail, 3 of them within the last 18 months. So I guess you tell me, is there a problem? I'd say there's a problem. And the problem is with the sheriff, with his chief deputy, with his majors, with his jail inspectors, not jail inspector, jail commander, all right? There is a problem. And I want you to think about if your son or daughter, mother, father, brother, sister was one of those people, the 10 people murdered and the 5 people who committed suicide, wouldn't you want an answer? Something is wrong. A couple of years ago, we had a local realtor who was murdered because allegedly a relative of the sheriff's committed a crime, and this couple lost about $100,000. Now, you can't sit here and tell me that if you lost $100,000 that you would not go make a report. Now, I just can't believe that. Anybody that says you're going to lose $100,000 in a crime and you're not going to go make a report, well, allegedly, rumor has it, nobody can find that report, but the poor realtor that handled that deal was the one that got shot. He should have never been shot. So, what I'm trying to tell you tonight, I want your support. This is a tough race because Dave Doak is a Democrat, I'm a Democrat. This election is going to be over in March. But I want you to ask yourself, talk to your friends, and I think I'm the person that should be elected sheriff. I used to be the sheriff, okay, like I told you. But I have 16 reasons of why. And it's the 10 murders, the 5 suicides, and the 1 realtor who those families and those victims no longer have a voice. I want to be the person to be the voice for those people. We will start a cold case unit. We will do training in the jail that you know that it needs, training in the jail, because somebody has stopped doing their job. And if you disagree with me, I'd like to hear it. Anybody disagree with me? Well, that's about all I have to say. I am the person that has the integrity. When I indict a prosecutor, okay, that's political suicide. But you know what? I have folks like you. I'm not sure the numbers, but the Portage County people, they're all good people, and they knew that I served them well. And I think it was Mary O'Toole or Christina that mentioned something MIA, made reference to MIA. That's a POW bracelet. Captain Warren Orr, May 12th, 1968, he's been missing. I've had this on since 1970, okay? I've never been a veteran, but the veterans, it is pathetic what our government does to them and the way they treat them. And I ask you for your support. Pass the word along. And I also have the 10 names. I have the 5 suicides in the jail. And I have a lot of other documents that anybody wants to look at it, I will meet you outside. And you can look at these newspaper articles. And for whatever reason, the Record-Courier, I'm sorry, I don't mean to offend the Record-Courier, but for some reason, they just aren't touching this. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to serving you.